The luxury fashion world is facing its biggest crisis in decades. What began as viral TikTok videos from Chinese manufacturers has evolved into full-blown industry scandals that are leaving designer stores empty and wiping billions from luxury stock values. In today's video, I'm breaking down the new updates in this unfolding scandal, including Hermès' desperate lawsuit against the very manufacturer that actually makes their bags, and why Louis Vuitton stores across China are being left empty. Let's dive into the biggest luxury expose of our time. So, did China actually make everything? Videos claim that more than 80% of luxury bags and items are made in China. The big brands just claim that they're made in Italy by shipping them to France or Italy, these sophisticated European countries, for a final touch, and then claiming European origin, right? So if we look at these viral videos on both TikTok and Instagram, we can see how these Chinese manufacturers actually expose these brands for claiming that the bags and items, etc., are made in Europe, but they're actually just assembled in China, and then they get shipped to Europe for final touch, and then they claim European origin, right? So these videos go into depth by actually exposing how China produces these things and how things are actually assembled in China and then just, shipped to Europe. One of the bigger things is that Louis Vuitton stores are reportedly empty across China, and customers are reacting by buying less. So because of this exposure of, having an insight in how these products are actually made, and if it actually is just China that are producing these items for $500, whereas they're selling the items for $5,000 or $10,000, like, people are starting to think to themselves, okay, can I actually get the same item for cheap just without, paying the premium price tag? So these aren't actually counterfeit allegations. It is the actual factories that are producing the items that are coming out with these claims and producing these videos. It is not just some, fluff here and there. It's literally the very factories that produce these items, and Louis Vuitton and Hermès and all of these different brands are actually coming out and, suing them and talking about how they aren't these, it isn't their manufacturers, while it actually are. And you can see that by looking at, the history of the manufacturers that these brands have been working with, even though now they're claiming that they aren't. And just here, there's a quick, image of a Louis Vuitton store that is completely empty in China because, it's going down for them, right? They're seeing a pretty damn big fall in sales in China. Now, the origin of all of this craziness broke out when Trump announced these tariffs, right? Some believe that it is the Chinese government pushing the agenda to hurt the US luxury market, right? As we all know, Trump and China are having this ongoing war, right? It's back and forth all the time. And as soon as Trump announced these big 67%, as you can see right here in this image, tariffs on China, they counterattacked with this kind of exposure across TikTok, right? And as a lot of people know, TikTok is to some extent banned in China, but they're still controlling the agenda and the algorithm. So a lot of people are thinking that this is China's, actually attack on the US and kind of trying to impact the luxury market in the US too, and actually exposing them, right? And so far it is working to some extent. It at least has had some impact. Factories are claiming that the production cost of an Hermès Birkin is $1,400 while they're being sold for $30,000. Whether this is true or not, it has sparked questions among consumers. Are they buying the craftsmanship or the logo? We all know that designer brands sell a lifestyle and status, but to what extent is the real question. Now, an expert has come out and said that it is actually a lower cost to produce a Birkin bag than $1,400, a leather expert, so we'll get into this in a bit. But it just goes to show, like, when people know that they're buying an illusion and a luxury brand, it's not actually the product, they know that. But when it gets exposed to this level, like, people start rethinking their decisions and thinking like, okay, why do I actually want to participate in this, and what am I actually buying? Now, the Chinese luxury market is expected to shrink by 15% this year alone. Resale prices of Kellys and Birkins have taken a hit in the past few weeks, and Louis Vuitton even suddenly extended a flagship store opening in Beijing. So this just goes to show that it has affected the market, right? 15% is a lot, and you have to look at Kellys and Birkins like Rolexes, right? You put your money in that sort of piece of, of craftsmanship to store your money and sell it later on for more or just the same price. So you can, wear your money instead of having it in the bank. Now, this is affecting obviously the consumers' buying patterns because they don't want to waste money. So now people are buying less Kellys and Birkins and just, these designer items in general. And Louis Vuitton, as I just said, actually didn't open this store. And some say, oh, it's not because of this, but why else would they suddenly extend the opening of a store, right? It probably has to do with not only the tariffs, but also obviously this scandal. It has also introduced consumers to the fact that they can buy duplicates and fake items produced with the same leather, steel, silk, and material in general for 10% of the price that these brands sell them at. So consumers are now starting to fumble with the idea of, okay, instead of actually just buying a replica, it's not a fake, I just buy the product without the logo directly from the manufacturers. And these Chinese manufacturers have even started doing this, right? So some people are even suggesting that these Chinese manufacturers should produce their own bags and higher quality items for their own brand instead of trying to create replicas, because China does have great manufacturing and access to all of the best materials that these brands use. Instead, they're selling directly to the consumers. So now they're starting to take these materials that they have access to, take their manufacturing and production skills, and selling directly to the consumers instead of actually putting it to the brands, right? So what is happening now is, you cannot deny it, China has a great manufacturing process. They have the best of the best, artisans. They have a lot of skill when it comes to production and, manufacturing. So they can actually do this, create their own brands, create their own products, and then sell it directly to the consumers while avoiding actually connecting with the brands. Now, obviously, that is something that they can do if these tariffs actually go ahead and gets implemented at a proper level, because then they can avoid that and, really just sell directly instead of selling through the brands. So only time will tell where this is going, but Trump is changing things daily and things are in an uncertain spot right now. So it's basically a war between China and the US, so who knows what is true or not. Like, once again, this responds with, these made in China, videos on TikTok, on Instagram, and just articles in general. They came as a response to those tariffs, right? So it's a war between, back and forth between China and the US, and nobody's going to win. Like, it's just a back and forth. We're going to have to see what time is going to tell and what is going to happen with this, because it is a crisis, and it is something that has affected the market big time if you look at stocks, etc. So we're just gonna have to see how this evolves and how consumers adapt. I don't think it's gonna have like a an effect on the long-term side of things, but maybe it will, maybe it won't. Time will tell. Some say that we are witnessing nothing short of a revolution in the luxury market. A lot of consumers are starting to question things they thought they knew about luxury and high-end fashion. And with prices crashing and stores emptying and all of this being unveiled, it is really hard to say how things are going to look with luxury brands in the future. The brands are desperately trying to maintain this mystique, but once again, we'll have to see where things going with Trump and China, how things are going to play out. Only time will tell. But once again, it has had a big effect on the market, and we can only see where this will take us with time. Nonetheless, the future might look very different for these luxury brands if things do not change and get back to what they were before, which obviously is hard to see happening. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you found value in this breakdown of this industry scandal that is currently going on and you want my help to scale your fashion brand to the next level, click on the first link in the description to apply to work one-on-one with me. I only take on clients that I genuinely know I can help, which is why spots are limited. I'll see you in the next one.